Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, August the 23rd, and it is a lightly overcast day. Probably no rain today, it's just a little cloudy out there. If you are new to my channel, this is a channel about cross-stitching, stitching related topics, and the odd occasional random stray topic that wanders its way into my head to talk about. If you are returning, you know full well what you're setting yourself up for, so thank you for coming back and spending some time with me. If you watched last week's video, you would have known that I was really excited because the weather here was, according to me, glorious. And it really was glorious. I loved it. It was fantastic. It was a week of gloriousness. I had a friend comment about the ridiculous number of times that I said the word glorious. So I might be, doing that again, but it was a fantastic week, loved it, which meant that I spent a lot of time outside and significantly less time stitching. So I'm not good about the stitching outside thing. I don't understand how people accomplish that. I need too many things spread out and all sorts of things, so I can't quite work that out. So I don't stitch outside, that's just me. And again, I had someone say, like, so if you're out there, like there was one night where I was out there till 11:30 at night. It was just fantastic. Loved it. And, they said, what are you doing out there all that time? And I'm going, watching Flosstube, reading emails, listening to an audiobook. There's lots of things to do outside after the sun goes down. Anyway, so it was a fantastic week, which means I really loved it. Didn't do as much stitching as I normally would because I spent so much time outside, particularly in the evenings, and I'm totally fine with that because the number of days that I get to do that is limited where I live. So I relished every moment of it, thought it was fantastic. It's my favorite. Last week was my favorite week of the whole year. It was just fantastic. Loved it. Anyway, enough about the weather and how excited I was last week. The forecast for this week is very pleasant weather, very nice, but not quite at glorious levels. So there will be more stitching this week. So what are we going to talk about? Well, as the title of this particular episode is, let's talk SAL updates and plans. We're going to start with the SAL updates. Then we're going to do a little bit about stitching, and then we'll get to the plans. So let's talk about the SALs. So, SAL number one that we're going to talk about, the lovely Morison. So this is the Hands Across the Sea samplers new chart that is being released as an exclusive with Traditional Stitches, which is a needlework shop located just outside of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's sort of about halfway between Calgary and Cochrane. And they are celebrating their 20th anniversary, which is a milestone accomplished and by no means a small thing. And so they have this 20th anniversary sampler that they are releasing in conjunction with Hands Across the Sea. It is exclusive to Traditional Stitches. So if you saw my first episode where I talked about this, the only place where you can get this chart globally is through Traditional Stitches, and I will put a link, as I did last week, to both the direct link where you can order it on their site, as well as the video where I talk about it in the notes below. So that is Morison. The big announcement that came out this week is, so for the stitch along aspect of this, so they're running a year-long stitch along. There's a Facebook group. There's a Rose, the stitch along leader. She's come up with she's divided this chart into 12 sections so that everybody can accomplish it. The goal being a year from now, if you follow the stitch along plan, you will have completed the sampler. Now, there will always be those people who, get the sampler and sit down and stitch like wild things and, try to have it accomplished, within a month. And there are people out there who can totally do that. there are those people, and then, as you all know, then there's me. I won't be starting the stitch along on time. I won't be trying to accomplish it in the 12 months. None of that stuff. Welcome to how I do stitch alongs. Anyway, so the big news is that they are delaying the start of the stitch along until it was originally starting the beginning of October. It's now starting the beginning of December. December the 5th is the new date. And it has changed because the shipping dates for getting the kit supplies for this, because you can buy everything you need to do this through Traditional Stitches. There's recommended linens. There's 2 silk options and a DMC conversion that are all available there. And the reason why that is because, no big surprise, because you've heard me chat about it, I don't know, 27 times on this channel about supply chain issues. And so the demand for this chart was a lot, a surprising amount. So I think the first print run, Nicola Parkman from Hands Across the Sea did a video. I will link that down below as well, where she sort of talked a bit more about what the update on this is. The first print run for this chart, I think, sold out in the first 2, maybe 3 days that the chart was available. The second print run, I think, sold out within, I'm going to say 2 weeks. It might have even been as short as a week. So they're now into, they need to do a third print run, and they've made the decision that it will be the last print run for Anne Morison. So it will become a limited edition chart. Anyway, with all of that demand, again, the chart is right now is not the issue. It will become an issue, because once print run number 3 sells out, that's it. Thanks for playing. The issue is the silks, particularly the SAL 103 to do this chart. And with the number of people that were kitting it up, and again, because Traditional Stitches was offering, if you bought the chart, the fabric, and the threads to do Anne Morison, you got a 15% discount on your kit. So the demand for this, particularly for the SAL 103 silk, was huge. Huge. And they weren't going to be able to have all of it arrive in time to get the shipments out for people to start at the beginning of October. And I think they made the right call to say, we want this to be a stitch along. We want everybody to feel like they are a part of the stitch along. And so they've delayed the start so that they can ship later, so that they can get more supplies in and get the kits out, so that everybody then can start the stitch along together on December the 5th. So I think it was a great decision. I think it's the right decision. Again, welcome to my version of stitching along. I join the stitch along usually, 5 to 10 years after the thing is finished and everybody's done and got it hanging on the walls and has been viewing it for years. That's usually when I like to start a stitch along. So don't go by me. I join the groups and I get all the charts and I do all the stuff just so I can have them. But I stitch along at my own pace. But I enjoy watching everything that everybody's doing. And sometimes people change things up, which means that now that I've seen their brilliance and their creativity, I want to do what they did. Anyway, so that's the new news this week about Anne Morison. So the chart, everything related to Anne Morison is going to start to get shipped out from Traditional Stitches starting in October. And again, so there's a lot of information out there. If you've already bought the chart, you are on a special Anne Morison newsletter from Traditional Stitches, because there's also a free chart, a New Zealand sampler that comes with buying the Anne Morison chart itself. But you have to buy Anne Morison to get the free New Zealand sampler chart. So if I'd been smart, I would have printed that out, but I didn't print that out. Anyway, it's on, Nicola Parkman, she'll talk about it, etc., etc. Anyway, so there are things to keep people occupied between now and then. There's a lot of information between Nicola's videos and the stuff in the Anne Morison newsletter. There's the same information is in the Anne Morison Facebook group. There's a lot of information. A lot of information. And, you know, because I know people at Traditional Stitches and I hear a couple of the stories, it's always interesting, you know, when they say, somebody says that they've read, you know, they got the newsletter, they read all the stuff, and then they have this one question, but the question is actually answered in the newsletter. So if you're getting it, there's a lot of information there. Please read carefully, because I know that they've worked really, really hard to try to answer as many questions as they possibly can in that newsletter. And the way that this is going to get shipped out is a combination of factors. One, they're going to try to get the kits that have the furthest to go will get sent out first because they've got the longest to go. So I'm going to pick on Australia, because I really like Australia, and I've been there several times. It's really lovely, and I love Australians. It's fantastic. But Australia is a really long ways away. And we all know what's happening with shipping and mail and everything that's going on with that. So, you know, the people who order the kits from Australia, theirs are probably going to get into the mail system first because they have the farthest to go. I live, you know, I can drive to the store, right? So my chart, you know, when they start to ship in October, anything coming to me is not, like, it's lower on the list because they won't be worried about whether or not it can get to me. Like, even if they mailed it out on November the 1st, and I'm just going to pick on me, and if they chose me because they know me really well, and I'd be totally fine with that because they know me really well. If they mailed it out on November the 11th, I'm still going to be fine. It's also me where I go, like, it's not like I'm going to start stitching this thing anytime soon. I usually like to start stitching 7 years after the fact, so they could mail it to me on December the 5th. Special for me. That's not really what they're going to do, because I know they're going to try to make sure everything gets out in a timely basis, but that's, hey, they're going to try to make sure that everything's going out and all that kind of stuff. So there's all sorts of logistics going on in there. But if you're on the newsletter and you've bought this, when you get information from Traditional Stitches, it tends to be fairly wordy because they try to give you as much information as they possibly can. I'm also just going to talk a little bit about, because I know it's a number of topics that have come up, the thread list for this particular chart is not available as yet. It will not be made available until after the shipments start going out. And that's very specifically done because when Nicola and Janice from Traditional Stitches and Access Commodities, who's doing the linens and is the distributor for the Auversois product line, we're talking about this because this has been like a year plus in the making, right? This is over a year of discussions and planning and all that kind of stuff to get to this point. The agreement was that they have an agreement that the products are coming through Access Commodities. There's a special run of these colors to get this done. And so in order to respect the agreement that has been reached, in order to make this possible, the thread list is not going to be made public until after the shipments start going out. And, you know, I understand why people are going, like, I'm trying to stitch from stash. So there's 13 colors that are required for the sampler. And don't get me wrong, I understand when people go, but I want to stitch from stash. I think I'm going to have most of these colors. I don't want to order the whole kit because I think I'm only going to need 2 colors. I totally get all of that. But I also, particularly with my background and having dealt with a lot of lawyers for almost all of my entire working career, if there's an agreement, a contractual agreement about how this is going to work, you have to abide by the agreement. Full stop. And the relationships between those parties are really important. And you don't want to do any kind of damage to that business relationship. And so all the parties, Janice, Nicola, Access, are abiding by the agreement. And I think that's spot on. And, you know, it's going to come out in October. And if you only need a couple of colors, you should be able to get them within a reasonable amount of time. And If you have the other 11, you have colors that are available for you to stitch with while you're waiting for your remaining 2 colors to come. That's how that's going to work. So I'm fully supportive of that decision as well, just because if that's the agreement, that's the agreement. And you need to respect those. You need to respect how that came about. Again, more than a year's worth of planning and logistics going into how this is going to work. You need to respect how that process is going to end up going. So that's Anne Morison. Big news on Anne Morison. A little bit of delay. I think it's the right call because I do agree. You know, certainly during the times that we're going through and the social distancing, the fact that to have an opportunity to try to stitch as a community together in a stitch along is a fantastic idea. I'm fully supportive. I as I said, I'm in the Facebook group. I'll be watching like a hawk. I'll be watching all the things come together while I, you know, stitch none of it, because that's how I do a stitch along. It's really kind of like I view a stitch along, and then I take many years to reflect upon it, and then I stitch it. Anyway, so that's the Anne Morison one. That's SAL number 1. SAL number 2, just a reminder, again, so there's no new updates from Caroline from Off the Grid as to when this particular SAL is going to start, but this is the Jeannette Douglas Blooming Bouquets 4 charts, and really the concept is it doesn't matter which one of these you stitch. Stitch a Jeannette Douglas Blooming Bouquets starting at sometime in October. I'm only highlighting it because my whole thing is with the delays and the supply chain stuff, if you don't have the chart yet or you don't have the supplies to do your chart, order now if you're one of those people who like to start the stitch along with everybody else. If you're like me and you start your chart like however many years down the road, you're good. But if you like to stitch along, order your stuff now to make sure that you've got it. So that's the Jeannette Douglas one. All right, those are the stitch along topics for this week. I'm shuffling the papers. Let's get to stitching. So sorry, I'm just going to say right now, the stitching period of this particular episode is going to be a little light because, as I said, for the 47th time, it was a glorious week last week. It was really fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Spent a lot of time outside, not as much time stitching. It was fantastic. Loved it. Anyway, so what did I stitch? Well, you know, it's going to be the shock of all shocks. You people are going to need to brace yourselves because there is going to come a day where this is not going to be the topic, but for right now, it's still the topic. Welcome to Marbeck. Still working on the bottom part of the center panel. It's going to take me a long time. Again, I didn't get as much done this week as I would normally like to get done in a week, but the week was just too glorious, and I'm totally fine with that. I will make up for it at some point here. So this is what I was working on. Where did I get to? All right, still working on the shepherd. I had a friend who said for sure I would, by this time I would have the shepherd done. I didn't have the shepherd done. I'm not close to having the shepherd done. There's a lot of shepherd to go. And I'm going to do my weird thing here where I pose with my stitching so I can get a picture. Anyway, so there's more blue than there was last time. So after last week, there were only 3 more colors of blue that needed to get done. I was working on this particular color. So I tried to do, anyway, so there's a little bit more that needs to get filled in down here. There's some in this batch, and there's a little bit that comes through here, right around where that line is. So by tonight, for sure, no problems. One of the remaining 3 colors of blue will be completed. That means there's 2 more left to go before we get into the oranges and the browns for said shepherd. So, as I like to say, progress is progress. So there's more here than there was last week, and that's good. Would I have liked there to be more? Sure, but hey, glorious week. I did the right thing. I did the right thing for me. Anyway, so that's my Marbeck. There certainly were a couple of nights, like when I came in really late, like one night when I came in at 10:30, I was like, maybe you could just fit in, right? Because I was working on Hinzite last week, and there were, you know, I could just do one column in the Hinzite mini autumn blocks, but I have to fussy cut, and I have to pay attention, and I have to be concentrating, and I have to do it right because I want it to look a certain way. And at 10:30, I went, no, I don't want to do that. So I did a little bit on Marbeck, and then went to bed. That's just how it worked. So that's my stitching for this week, which will sadly is the shortest amount of the program. We're going to do a little bit of channel things quickly before we move on. Denise Jeffries, who has been waiting very patiently and has not remarked that I have not yet mailed out her thing. It's true, I have not mailed out the chart. The envelope is ready to go. I've got her address, it's all ready to go. It's just sitting there. There's a wrinkle in the plan. Clearly, when I decided I had two and I could give one away, I put the second copy somewhere special. So yeah, after I said, you know, we'd all connected, she'd give me her stuff, I was like, great, I gotta get this in the mail. I zippity-doo-dah up to where I knew where the chart was, and there it wasn't. So now I have to find the really special place that I set it aside to make sure nothing happened to it, because now it's not where I think it should be. So Denise, it's coming. I haven't forgotten about you. Your envelope is ready to go. It's just missing one critical component, the thing that goes in it. But while we're talking about Denise left me a couple of comments on last week's post, and Denise, you've been holding out on me. If you knew about 2x2 stitch art, why didn't you tell me? So Denise, who else are you holding out on me on? I expect to see, no pressure, but I expect to see a comment from you on this week's video with all the other things that you've been holding out on me. Don't assume that I know who these people are. Etsy is a vast world of a bajillion cross-stitch people with beautiful things. I can't find them all by myself. And you know I'm very willing to be sucked into a rabbit hole of new people and new designs and things. Anywho, Denise, I'm looking forward to seeing your comment this week. But because Denise commented last week and was talking about our love of all things geometric and symmetry related and things like that, and she threw in some snowflake references and all that kind of stuff, I thought this week I'm going to show a chart from my stash that I think is little known. I will explain a couple of things. So this is Knotwork Garden by Dracolair Creations. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a lot of these out there anymore, but I did some research before I got on here because I know I'm always the best at saying things and saying, if only I'd done the research. I've done a little bit of research on this. So right now, everything cross stitch does have this chart. It's even on sale. I will put a link to it in the show notes below if you are interested in this. But yes, they're winter snowflakes. Dracolair Creations, their charts tend to be about dragons. I don't tend to stitch a lot of dragons, but I do like things that, you know, snowflakey, knotwork looking, geometric somethings. So Denise, this is available. I'll put a link in the notes below. You can decide what you want to do. But it's close to going, certainly like the big you know, the online stores that everybody knows, like 123 Stitch, ABC Stitch. Anyway, I looked at a bunch of them. They didn't have them. I even went to one of the distributors. They don't, of the Dracolair stuff, which is very limited, they certainly didn't have this. So I'd say this is close to becoming a hard to find chart unless you're going through a stash unload or eBay situation. But I did do some homework, and according to the website right now at Everything Cross Stitch, they do have some, and they're on sale, and I like a sale. So that's Dracolair Creations. While I was doing it, the interesting thing about this is I store this. When I bought this at the store that I got it at, I bought all the supplies to do it. So if you're interested, and this is where it gets interesting because you can always compare sort of what the picture looks like, because we all know the pictures rarely do them justice, rarely reflect what the thing is going to look like. And if what you see in the picture is really what you're aiming for, you may end up needing to make some adjustments to get it to look like that. So for interest's sake, I'm going to show you what the items are for this particular thing. So this is the fabric, and again, the colors of fabric never show up correctly on camera. There's nothing, I have no brilliant skill set to improve this. Anyway, it's more blue than what you're seeing. Actually, if I was smart, I would actually just loop this right over top of the board. Or as my friend would say, maybe use those clips that you were using. Never mind that. Solved. Okay, so this is the fabric. It is Babbling Brook Jobelan. This is a 28 count fabric. And then it uses multiple skeins of Gentle Arts Brethren Blue. Tropical Ocean. There's some DMC colors, which I have not pulled because I only bought the specialty ones when I bought this. And a DMC rayon to add some shimmer to said snowflakes. So that's essentially the color palette that's going on in that. I also laugh when I look at my bag that this was in, because I keep those things together, because I clearly was not 100% convinced about the fabric, because this looks in my head quite a bit darker than the fabric in the chart. So, you know, what do you do in that situation? Well, if you're me, you pick a different fabric and buy that as well. I'm setting things up. So here's what they look like on the called for. Here's what they look on my alternate. Now again, the alternate is not showing up necessarily correct either, because it's more blue than what you're seeing. So this is Summer Sky Jobelan, because I did want some kind of a mottled effect. And again, this is Babbling Brook Jobelan. So why would this be out when I did such little stitching this week? Well, one of the things that I was doing while I was sitting out there in the glorious sunshine in evenings and enjoying every minute of it is the second part of the title. Plans. Plans. So we all know that my plans for, like, I'm calling it the rest of the year. It's going to take me the rest of the year to hopefully get Marbec completed. That really is my secret goal. I would really like if by the end of 2020, Marbec, not just the center panel, Marbec plus the camel is complete. It's almost the end of August. The shepherd is not done. I'm feeling a little bit not great about that, but it was a glorious week and it was the right thing to do. So I just need, the answer is come September and, you know, it's not summer anymore, time to buckle down and be studious about how we're going to accomplish that. Because I would really, 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 really like to get Marbec completed. Why? Because then it means I can go work on like 470 other things, which would be lovely. That's where the plans come in. So this week, and again, so listening to, you know, Ann Morison, the shipping's being delayed, you know, to make sure that everybody can get their supplies at about the same time. I've watched a number of Flosstubes this week because I spent some glorious time outside. A number of Flosstubes this week with everybody commenting about they're having to wait for things, which is true. You know, I really enjoyed, it was Chelsea from Stitching with the Housewives who's like, she's short a Gentle Arts color and she's been waiting a really long time. And you know what she's going to need to do? She's going to need to continue to wait patiently until it arrives. So yeah, the discussions have been like, you know, and again, you've heard me, again, I'm going on again about the topic that I've gone on and on about again, but I'm just doing it again in case anybody randomly finds my channel and hasn't heard. You know, it's hard to get some of the base fabrics to do fabric dyeing. It's, there's been some challenges getting the plain floss for people like, sorry, there's a hair. Okay. The base floss for people like Gentle Arts to over dye to make their product. So if they're having, if you can't get the thing in to dye to make your product, it doesn't matter how loud somebody is angry or whatever they say, like there's nothing you can do. There's issues getting dyes. So I did a whole episode on, you know, Picture This Plus and some things that they're experiencing with their dyes. Again, Nicola Parkman in one of her more recent ones was talking about, you know, there's two colors of Auvert Soie. There's one Soie 103 and a Soie d'Alger, where right now, according to Nicola, and I trust her because she talks to these people really, unlike me, where she's like, you can't get them. The distributor for Auvert Soie products has exactly zero, none. Nada, zip, zilch. They've got none. And Auvert Soie in France also has none. Now, why that is, I don't know exactly. In my head, so cautionary note, this is in my head. I'm making it up. You know, like I think it probably has to do with dyes that they, you know, they've ordered the dye that they need to make color whatever it is, and it hasn't arrived. It's in the mail somewhere. You know, we all know things are going on with how things are getting shipped, right? And I've heard about it, you know, from store owners where they're like, you know, box number X got put in for shipment and it's now been it took 8 weeks to get from, you know, location A to store B. 8 weeks. It's crazy. But we're using those systems and, you know, whether it's FedEx or postal systems or UPS or some of the other ones that are doing that, they're all overwhelmed. There's a huge amount of shipping of items going on, more than there used to be. That's just how it is. I know Canada Post has said, like, we are operating at Christmas time delivery levels every single day, and we've been doing that for months. And quite frankly, nobody's usually set up to run at Christmas delivery levels all of the time, and funding thing, anyway, all sorts of things. So the answer is everybody just needs to be patient. And again, so as we talk about plans, we'll do another little round of this. So what it has me doing is, with my really glorious goal of finishing Marbeck by the end of 2020, that means in 2021, I should get to work on all sorts of other things and start things and do other things and work on different things and work on multiple things. It'll be really exciting. And I have stash, and I acknowledge that. But I'm also having that moment where I feel like I should kit things up. Now, have I decided what I should be working on in 2021? No. In my head, am I working on how I might approach what I'm going to work on in 21? Sure. Have I got lots of different ideas? You bet. Do I know what I'm really going to do? Of course not. But in the meantime, I really feel like I should kit some things up so I have options. So one of the things, again, because I have stash and I really should be using up some stash, is, and I already know I've got friends who are going to laugh, and you can just sit at home and chuckle to yourself and just go with it. I'm going to say here on my channel, I'm going to try to stitch from stash next year. So we all know that I haven't been through, I've been buying things and I haven't showed you that, and I have a separate pile for that. And we're going to get to that. That still is not this week. You know, so I was trying to do stitch from stash, and I was doing really well up until about May. And then I fell off the bandwagon. And I'm calling it the COVIDs. I got the COVIDs. I don't actually have COVID, the disease. I'm calling it, I got the COVIDs, which is where everybody's buying things and there's lots of floss tubes and people are doing all sorts of things. And I felt like I needed to, you know, get things. So I did. Anyway, whatever. I'm calling that the COVIDs. So I'm having the COVIDs in 2020 so that hopefully in 2021, I will be stitching from stash and trying to behave myself. For those of you that know me in real life, just stop laughing. It's always good to have a goal and try to, you know, reach for that goal. Anywho, you know, so you also see a lot of floss tubers who, you know, so the whole thing, stitch from stash means I have to stash now, so that I can stitch from stash successfully, right? That's how I'm spending that. I need to buy the stuff now so I can stitch from stash next year. See how that works? Never mind that. Go with it. So there are all sorts of people who are talking about their 2021s and what they're going to be doing. And so Stitch from Stash has been a thing for a number of years. There's a Facebook group you can go on, you can join it and record all your things and do things. You know, if you're people who need to have that accountability with the group and the pressure of the group, that's a fantastic opportunity. They're very nice in that group. I'm not sure I'm going to join the group because anyway, we'll see how firm I am on my Stitch from Stash plans for 2021 as we get there, because I can always join the group and report dutifully. There are people who are doing things, they're calling it the no new starts in 2021. So these are the people who have lots and lots and lots of whips. So for some of you, if you have 5 whips, that's a lot. There are people out there who have a lot of whips. And in fact, I was just this morning watching somebody on Instagram who is sort of going, their goal between now and February of 2022, they're going to try to get the number of whips from 96 down to 40. I don't know. It's always good to have a goal. I'm very supportive. I think that's fantastic. She says she's going to do a whip parade. I'm going to look forward to that because that'll be fun to watch. Hopefully I won't want any of it because anyway, it doesn't matter. So I won't be participating in no new starts because that's one of the joys of finishing Marbeck, is that I will be able to start things. And so my 2021 will of course be, I'm starting new things. Hopefully finishing some things and starting new things, because Marbeck will be done. It will be fantastic. That'll be great. So I'm not joining the No New Starts 2021. Apparently they are working out their rules and things like that. So there's a bunch of floss tubers that I watch where they're starting a whole bunch of things now. They're deliberately starting them, and their goal is not to get a lot of progress on them. Their goal is to get like 27 stitches in, because then they can go, it was started before they hit the year of no new starts. See, we're all really good. It's always good to have goals, and then we do all these things to work our way around to then end up being successful at the goal. Anyway, never mind that. So I'm not joining that parade, but it's really fun watching them, because there's a whole bunch of people out there who are wildly starting new things a little bit so that they make sure that they've got them started before they get to 2021, the year of no new starts. Anyway, so again, so I'm working on my plans right now and my concepts of plans. It's the kitting aspect up, and the, you know, trying to stitch from stash in 2021 is why I'm working on that in my head right now, because things take a long time. And so I was saying to somebody, a friend of mine, they were kind of laughing because they were running across someone who was like complaining that, you know, they'd ordered their Picture This Plus fabric. Okay, I didn't pay enough attention to the story. A while ago, let's say 4 or 6 weeks, I don't know what the real number was, and they were, you know, unhappy that they had not yet received it. And my friend, who's smart and knows things, says like, oh my goodness, it's Picture This Plus. How do they not know? Picture This Plus is running really behind. They're limited to 50% of their staff. We have been ordering like wild things. Like, I can't even imagine how many orders they've got to anyway, whatever. Hey, Picture This Plus, we love you. Please be safe. Look after yourselves. Don't wear yourselves into the ground, because I might need to order some fabric. And so I said this to my friend. I said, I might be putting in an order with my LNS shortly. Like in the next couple of weeks, I think I'm going to put in another order, and I'm going to be ordering Picture This Plus. And she said, yeah, but that's different. You know about Picture This Plus. You know full well that if I put my order in at the beginning of September, I'm probably not going to get it until at least January. And I know that, and that's fine. But this is why I'm doing, like, I'm trying to do the kitting now and getting, you know, if I need to order something, because some of those things will take until January for me to get it. Just so you know, that I'm thinking about ordering a piece of Picture This Plus Whimsy. I'm having the debate, 28, 32, how does it look on the different even weaves? Do I have a preference? Do I really know what I'm targeting? Anyway, but that's right now, Whimsy is my thing where I'm going, I might need to do Whimsy. And there's another fabric. I don't want to talk about it just yet because I just want to confirm. So it was a fabric that I loved. It's a Zweigart fabric. It is not an overdyed fabric. And I loved it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. It's one of my favorite colors for a very specific thing. And my so Janice from Traditional Stitches, she actually talked to me. It was being discontinued. And she talked to me because she knew how much I loved it. This is what happens. It's good to befriend someone at your LNS and have them know you for a lot of time. Anyway, and she knew that I loved it, and she let me know that it was being discontinued. It was still available, but it was going to be discontinued. And so I put in an order for a lot, and I have it. And I still have it. I haven't used it up because I have to ration it because it was discontinued and it was not going to be available. So you can't just willy-nilly use that stuff up. You have to be very careful about using it. But it looks like my color has come back. And so I reached out to Janice and I said, ooh, I stumbled across this. It looks like my favorite color might be back in my favorite count. She checked into it. She's ordered some. They haven't said that they can't fill the order, so I'm very excited. If it is back, I will be thrilled to death. You all are going to hear it. Janice kind of said, if it comes in, I might send you home with the bolt and you can just wrap yourself up in it and show it on Flosstube. I said it might freak everybody out if I took the bolt and wrapped myself up in the fabric, but I love this fabric. I love it. So if it really, when it comes into the shop, you will be hearing for sure about it, because then I won't feel like I have to be so careful about when I cut my existing stash up, because, you know, when it's discontinued, I look at those things and I go like, once I've used this up, that's it. I can't get it anymore, and I love it, and it's the perfect thing for this particular type of design, but it might be back. Very exciting. So same thing, right? That's on my list of like, if it comes back. Even though I have some, I might need to get some more, because the types of designs, this particular design, there's been a lot more that have been designed and are coming out, and then I wouldn't have to be so careful about rationing things. I could just buy some more and feel good about it. Anyway, all of that. So that's why I'm doing plans. I'm working on the plans. You know, like if I've got charts that I think I might want to start in 2021 that require Gentle Arts threads that I don't have in my stash, I need to get my order in now. Because it may take until January. It may take longer than that. I know that again, I don't know the exact specifics. I know that there's a few colors in Gentle Arts where they've had dye issues, and you haven't been able to get those colors for months. Like, so let's go even pre the COVID shutdown and things like that. Like, you might have ordered it in January of 2020, and by March you still wouldn't have gotten it because they were having a problem getting the dyes to make it. So add a COVID thing in there and supply chain and getting things, and you know, that's the whole, I've got to assess what I think I might want to start in 2021, because I'll be starting some new things. And you all will have new things you all want me to start new things, I'm quite sure. You know, but I need to start figuring out what the supplies that I would need to kit those up. So that's what I'm going through right now, is I'm trying to figure out what I think those potential things are, get them kitted up, get them ready to go. Yes, do I have a bunch of projects that are already kitted and ready to go? Yes. Am I going to try to kit some other things? Yes. Because I like variety. I know, you would never know it if you looked at my stitching, because all I've been doing is Marback. But that's for a very specific reason. But once Marback is done, we'll be working on other things, and it will be very exciting for you and for me. And with that, oh yeah, no, I've got a couple of things. It's like I have to look over to my secret things over here where I keep the stuff. Okay, so I told you that I was buying a few things, and so I'm not going to show you charts and fabrics and threads and stuff like that, which I do have that. I'm keeping the pile all together. It's growing, but I'm keeping the pile so that we will get to that point. It has to be on a week where I have less things to talk about. But I'm going to talk about the knot. You didn't necessarily see these particular topics coming as stitching topics. So one, this came, a friend of mine drew my attention to these. And technically, if I'd been paying attention to Facebook, I would have seen it by myself, but I didn't. These. So what are these? So I saw the thing on Facebook after my friend pointed it out. Then I went to Amazon. Then I ordered the things. And so these are magnets on the end, which right? And what the person was using them for is when you're using a Q-snap, hold up. When you're using a Q-snap and you've got a lot of fabric that you're trying to contain around your Q-snap. Now, for me, normally, if I have that much extra fabric, I usually end up moving it onto a scroll rod. But certainly, in the last year, I was working on a project. It was actually a project that I started and that I was working when I was spending some time in the hospital with my aunt. You know, it's now been moved on to a Q-snap because she's no longer in the hospital. But generally, a scroll rod is not the best thing to be carting to and from a hospital while you're spending some time with someone in hospital. It's a little unwieldy. And so I put my project on a Q-snap and had a lot of excess fabric. If I'd had these, all you then have to do is wrap it around your Q-snap, and it can contain your fabric, and you can, put them, depending on how it wraps around, you can, work your thing. So I like the concept. So once I saw it, I went to Amazon and bought them. So I will put a link to these down below. The link that you're going to see, of course, is to Amazon Canada. So normally when I'm watching somebody else's YouTube Flosstube video where they're linking to something and it takes you to Amazon, the US site, I just take the description from the Amazon US site, come back to the Canadian site, and just type in paste the description into the search box and see what my Canadian options are. So for any of you that are watching from not Canada, that's how you can work it for your version of Amazon, or however you want to search for your things. So I went out and they came in a rainbow of colors. and we all like things. And again, so the ridiculous things, yeah, so I deliberately went and I got the ones that have the star on the end because they're prettier than the ones that have the round. Because it's all about making sure it's pretty, right? All right, so that's that. The other thing that I got, and so I was watching Brenda in the Serial Starter, and so she's a big sampler reproduction. She uses a lot of the SWA 103s, and she showed this, and I went, huh, might need to add that to my stash for containing things. Do I use a lot of SWA 103s? Not all the time, but the concept worked for me. And so what this is, actually I'm going to make it so it's not quite so noisy right off the get-go. So this is a pencil case. And yeah, so I bought them, they came as a package of 6. Yes, I'm showing the purple one because my friend always mocks about how well coordinated I am. So since there was a purple one, I'm choosing the purple one to show because I'm sitting in the room where there's a lot of purple. So this is a pencil case. It has this flap, which, so it's a snap flap. And what it does is it pulls out. So this is a drawer that then you push in and seal so it doesn't fall out on you, which I like that. And then you can take your SWA 103 spool or a sulky. So this is a sulky thread, also purple, and put them in there. Or, I don't know, say Krynic. So any of the things, now the Krynic gets a little smaller than the other ones, so anything that's on a spool. So if you've got a project where you're using a lot of sulkies or you're doing whatever, you can throw them in here. You know, is there enough room for you to put a star detailer or a needle threader? Sure. Could you put them all in the thing? Shove your drawer back in, snap it, and then it's not coming out. I think it's a brilliant idea. I loved it. I ordered it. It came. Now, have I loaded it up with 12 other things? No, because, you know, even when I was working on the Marbeck Star, don't get me wrong, the Marbeck Star, it only needed 3 colors, right? So I didn't need the full pencil case. But when I go back and I work on Fairy Winter Dream, right, that's got beads, so packets of Mill Hills, put the Krynic for that in here. I could see me popping all of those and just having one of these and go, that's the case that goes with Fairy Winter Dream. So I will put a link to this in the drop down in the notes below as well, because I like these as well. And again, so it came, so not my idea, I didn't find it. I'm a really great copier. When people find brilliant things, love the copying. So Brenda in the Serial Starter, that's the Flosstube that I watched where I got it. She put a link to Amazon US. I came to Amazon Canada and I got my own set of 6 in a variety of colors so they can color coordinate with your project as well, which we all know is important. Anyway, all right, there we go. We're over 50 minutes. I don't want to make this into a floss movie. So thank you for stopping by. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you're all staying safe and doing well and enjoying these days of summer, because I'm loving it. I know there's not great weather. There are forest fires, which are always not good. There's some not great weather barreling down on our friends in the southern states, which some of them, anyway. So I'm hoping everybody's staying safe. Safety first, safety first. I hope you're all safe. You're staying healthy, that you're getting some stitching done, and that you're stitching if you're under any kind of stress. I hope that your stitching is helping you to manage that and give you a break on concentrating on something where you can be creative and calming. And with that, I hope you all have a really great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.